You're listening to the Good Christian Podcast. We're not saying that we're always good Christians, but this is always a good podcast for Christians to listen to. I'm your host, Alex Sanfilippo. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Welcome back, everybody, and happy spring. I hope that everyone's had a good season so far. I know for us here in Florida, it's cold at night and really, really hot during the day. I'd rather it be one or the other so I don't leave the house in a long sleeve shirt, and then I try to come home after work and I melt on the way. That's been happening to a lot of us lately. But nonetheless, I'm loving the change of seasons. I hope everyone had a happy Easter as well. I'm looking forward to today's topic. I'm going to be sharing a perspective with you that's going to really help you through life's struggles. This has been some things that have helped me so much in my life. I'm actually just going to kind of begin with a story from my life. So I'm going to go back. How many years is this? Let's go back 20 years. I'll let y'all do the math to find out how old I was then. But anyway, I was playing City League baseball. So the way City League baseball worked is you kind of similar to being in a public school where you just go to a tryout type of thing. But instead of it just being the students from that one school, it was, I don't know where these kids came from. Kids from everywhere, though. So I was just one of the hundreds of kids that would show up for this thing. And I can remember this was the first year I got into a higher age bracket. So I went from being the big kid, the kid who was like pretty good at baseball and bigger than the other kids out there, to being by far the smallest kid on the field. So I'm kind of standing in the line, getting ready to step onto the actual field. And there's just like one kid's name after another in front of me getting called. I kind of feel the pressure like building up in that moment as I'm like waiting for my chance to prove that I'm worthy to be on one of the teams in this city league. I think that every kid got picked, by the way, but that's a side note. Anyway, so here I'm sitting in line. I keep on getting closer, but I'm like watching these kids that are older than me. I'm like, man, they all look really good, and they're all taller than I am, and they're definitely faster. So I wasn't sure like how to feel. And then finally, the announcer calls my name. Up next, Alex Sanfilippo. My heart immediately dropped. I can feel it like sink back in my chest. So like the nervousness and the adrenaline starts pumping. So I run out on the field. So I go through a whole series of different trials, if you will, different things that I need to be tested in. So I bat for a little bit. I remember missing a lot of them. Almost all of them I struck out even at one point. They were hitting balls toward me while I was in the outfield. They were testing how quick I could get to first base. Just anything you can imagine with baseball was testing all of it. It happened pretty quick. It was only maybe 10 minutes from start to finish. And I missed a lot. Like I didn't do well. Or at least that's how I felt. Let's put it that way. In my mind, I didn't do well. I did the best I could. I left it all out there on the field. And I kind of walked off when I knew it was done, feeling really discouraged and feeling defeated by what happened. And then I can remember a few, I guess it was like an hour later actually, I got a conversation going with one of the coaches that walked up to me. They said they wanted me on their team. And I knew who that was. I recognized it. That's the team that won the championship the year before. So it was kind of like, man, I thought I wasn't any good. And I can remember thinking to myself as a kid, why did they want me on their team? What did they see in me? Did they think I was a different kid when I was out there? Did I look like somebody else? Like, what happened? Why did they want me? The truth is I never got my answer to that question as a kid. And I remember, feeling honored to be on the team. So I was just really happy to be part of it and didn't feel like I even deserved it at all. So as I got older, I kind of went back to that later on in life, because life will throw a lot of trials at us. It'll throw a lot of difficulty at us. Things just happen to us that honestly suck at times, right? There's no other way to say that. Life can get really difficult. And it was later on in life when I realized through these difficulties that it wasn't much different than what I was going through as a kid. So let me explain that real quick. These struggles that we face in our lives, these trying times we go through, they aren't much different than a baseball tryout. They threw me in that field and gave me these impossible tasks to achieve because they wanted to see how I would respond. They didn't expect me to actually do all of them well. They threw the ball at me way too hard. They knew I was going to strike out. They hit the ball just over my head to see how quick I'd be able to get to it, how I could respond. They wanted me to throw it to first base way too fast for me, but they wanted to just see what I would do. Would I get frustrated? Would I get angry? Would I crack? Would I cry? What would I do? What would my response be? Would I step up to the challenge, even if I knew it was a trial that I wasn't going to be able to make it through the way I wanted to? So I realized that, again, our life is just like that. That's what trials are in our lives. Difficult times, difficult seasons. They aren't a time for us to sit back and say, oh, woe is me. Life is terrible. This is what happens in my life. This is just the way things go for me. We get into this victim mindset, or in this mindset of we always have to be in a place of struggle. And it's just going to hold us back our entire lives if we don't overcome that and realize that God is just allowing things in our life to happen to test us, to see how we do. And I kind of think back in the Bible, and I've mentioned this before, the same character in the Bible on the podcast, but Job, he was a man that God allowed to be tested to an extreme that none of us could ever imagine. And God did that because he knew, you know what, he's going to make it through. And sure enough, Job didn't understand what was happening. He couldn't figure out why, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter. What mattered was his mindset and his attitude throughout it. And that's the same for our lives. The lives that we all live, yes, again, life is tough. There's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of tragedy. There's trialing times we go through. But our mindset is what really matters. We have to learn to live a life that is above that is not going to be what defines us. What defines us is our response through them. And when we can gain this bigger mindset, I promise you that times of struggle seem so much smaller, no matter how difficult they get. If you remember, this is not who I am. This is just the season that I'm in right now. This is just the chapter of my life that I'm in. It might be difficult, but I can get through it. And when you have that mindset, you're really going to just do so much better in life. You'll actually be able to be joyful even in seasons of sorrow or heartache. And I also wanted to add this on the same topic. Who we truly are inside becomes magnified during times of trial or difficulty or struggle. Who we truly are inside becomes magnified. So again, if you're somebody that just is all beat up all the time when you're having a difficult time in life, that's who you truly are. You're not the person that you are when you're having a good time or things are going well for you. When things are at their worst, when life is as hard as it has ever been, that person that you are in that day is who you truly are inside. So ask yourself this question, and I seriously want you to take a minute to ask yourself this. Who am I during trialing times in my life? Who am I during trialing times in my life? Answer this question truthfully for yourself. Who are you, really? Who do you turn into? Do you change? Are you exactly the same? When we answer this question, it's going to help us figure out exactly where we are with having this mindset of what a trial or difficult time is in our lives. So the actual definition, I'm just going to kind of take this as far as I can, the same topic, but I would just pull like a Webster's dictionary definition of a trial. It's a tryout or experiment to test quality, value, or usefulness. That's a trial. It's a tryout or experiment to test quality, value, or usefulness. That's exactly what it is. And that's what we're going through in life when we hit struggles. We are going through this trial, this tryout, and God is testing our quality, value, and usefulness. Now, I'm not saying that God necessarily puts bad times on us. I know that happened with Job, where he allowed them. But life happens. We live in a world that is broken. It's messed up. We're not going to blame God for any of this. And if we do, again, that's an issue. But we are going to run into these difficult times. And God wants to see how we're going to make it through them. So when we can still keep our joy, when we can keep our happiness, when we can seek counsel through our friends, or we can just go to certain kind of groups or churches, whatever it may be, to help us through those times, and we keep our strong mindset and attitude, we are going to go so much further in life because of that. We'll get right back into today's episode, but I wanted to quickly invite you to our online community. We just launched our own social media platform. That's right, it's not Facebook, it's our own platform where we're globally connecting the body of Christ. The entire idea is for us just to be able to share and collaborate together. We'd love to have you as part of this. And if you will, visit dailyps.com. You can get started there. It's completely free and it takes less than 2 minutes to set up. I would personally love to have a conversation with you there, and I'm looking forward to that. But for now, let's go ahead and jump back into today's episode. I want to quickly read a scripture on the same topic. It's from James chapter 1. It's verse 2, 3, and 12. Yeah, I'm going to jump around a little bit. I can do that. I'm the one talking. So it's consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. So that's a big deal. God is talking about this throughout the Bible. Like, God is using James to just share with us the struggles of our life. It's supposed to be something that we consider it joy. And as long as we go through with the right mindset and attitude, it's going to produce perseverance. And as long as we can remain steadfast when we're under these trials, we're going to receive that crown of life. And God has promised that to all of us. And something we have to remember is that he loves us, and he's not the one that's putting us through these trials or difficult times. I know in my life I've been through a lot. And you know what? You might be saying I've been through more. And you're probably right. All of us have been through a lot in our lives, and we all handle things differently. We respond to it differently. But what's important is our attitude that we keep throughout it. I can think of a time in my life when I was in my early 20s, really doing well professionally, but my job was really stressful. And I could feel my hair falling out. I could feel the stress just eating away at my muscles. I wasn't getting good sleep. It was a really bad time in my life. And the truth is, I was defeated in that time. Sure, I went to work every day. I did everything that I was supposed to do, but inside, I know that I wasn't happy at all. I was just getting more stressed, more concerned, more frustrated, and I just didn't handle it right. But the day that I overcame, it wasn't the day the job changed or my situation changed or I got a pay raise. It wasn't any of those things. It was the day that I realized that I needed to change my mindset and who I was internally before I could expect anything outside to change. So I think it's important right there, a quick side note, but we have to remember we can only control our response. We can't control what happens to us in life. And this was one of those moments. I couldn't control what was going on. I just had to adapt and change. And when I changed my mindset and really just gave it to God, what I did was I surrendered to God. I said, God, you know what? I'm going to start working for you. I'm going to do my best for you. And I need you to take this stress away from me. I'm just going to go walking in joy and in happiness every day of my life. And here's the deal. My job didn't change for years after that. But when I walked in with that mindset, knowing, you know what, God, I'm just going to be happy anyway. I'm just going to keep on going and do my best no matter what. My whole job changed. My performance improved. And I was able to keep my hair, thankfully. That was nice. I started sleeping better. I started really doing well in the gym again. My whole life changed. And the only thing I did differently was my mindset. I didn't change anything else at all. And again, that's a big deal for all of us to remember. As we're going through these difficult times, if we can simply, again, it's not easy, but it is simple for us to be able to just change our mindset, we're going to make it so much further. And this is a perspective that my prayer is that all of us really understand and get this. We need to take this as far as we can in our lives because professionally, spiritually, relationally, this is really going to help. And just from a mental health perspective, when you're positive and when you just have this view of what a trialing time is in your life, it's going to help you so much. You're going to go further in life. And I believe it's really just going to be able to impact the world because people also see your response and they see that on you. And they're like, hey, how are you doing so well through this? And when you can tell them the reason why, that you just are having your faith in God and then you're just loving him and just thankful that he's giving you the life that you have regardless of your circumstances, people are going to grab onto that. And that's a better witness than almost anything else you can do in your life. So that's really all I've got on this episode today. I know it was just very focused on the topic of trial, but think back to my baseball tryout or trial, whatever it is that you want to call it. When I was doing that, is when I first realized, much later in my life, is when I realized that it's just so important that we have this proper mindset. So I don't know what that story is for you, but all of us have stories where we've had to grow and develop and change. So think about it, grab onto that story and start getting that proper mindset. And I believe that you're just going to go so much further in life and walk in more joy than you ever have before. So that's it for this episode, and thank you again for listening. I love all of you. I'm so thankful for just the reviews we've been getting and just the people that have reached out to me saying that they've enjoyed it and it's helped them. That's what it's all about. I just want to add value however I can. So I'm just speaking from my personal life and from my story, not anything that I don't know, but I'm just glad to hear that it's helping. So thank you again for the feedback, everybody, and I love you all. I'll be back with you next month. Thank you again for listening to the Good Christian Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and a review. This really helps us to continue to impact and reach more people. I'm looking forward to sharing another episode with you next month, but until then, remember that making it through life's struggles starts with a positive mindset.